I do want to start the show with another transfer. And I know we have Wolfsburg fans in listening to the show. I have one who sends me comments about every week on Blue Sky, Twitter, or yeah, every social media really. You know who you are, and I appreciate the dedication to VfL Wolfsburg, who, by the way, tomorrow, September 12th, will celebrate the 80th birthday of the club's existence. You know, longer than I think a lot of people think. The club is old, founded in 1945 after World War II as part of Volkswagen, of course. Stefan, they got themselves a nice little birthday present yesterday out of nowhere. And this is one of those deals where, it becomes a rumor and then it's announced within, a few hours. Christian Eriksen, Danish playmaker, 33-year-old, free agent after his contract expired at Manchester United, joins Wolfsburg. He plays with oh my God, let's see if I can do this, defibrillator, which is the same word in English and in German, after his cardiac arrest that he suffered in Euro 2020, which was of course played in 2021 because of the pandemic. In his first group stage match against Finland, they lost that game 1-0. Denmark then, of course, moved on to went all the way to the semifinals. We covered this as part of the Hjulmand story. It is kind of fascinating that Hjulmand ends up in the Bundesliga, and then a few days later, Christian Eriksen is here too. There were some rumors that he could join Leverkusen. That didn't happen. He's in Wolfsburg now instead. I saw this in the scene. I'm like, okay, well, this is. I don't know what they want to do with this guy. He's older. He's a player, who of course was brilliant. But that brilliance, as he got older, kind of seemed to come off a little bit. Having said all that, he's still an active Danish national team player, right? Record national team player. He once had a market value of 100 million euros. He is a player, I think, that if he had gone to Italy, where he can't play because of his heart condition, I think a lot of people would have said, yeah, he probably can still do a job for AC Milan, Inter Milan, one of those big Italian teams. In fact, it would be the sort of signing like Luka Modric to AC Milan, and where we say, okay, older player, but for some reason he still strives in that league. I thought about that a little bit yesterday. There's a big Danish contingent at Wolfsburg because Peter Christiansen is the sporting director there, or managing director of sport. And so he assigned 6 Danish players now to the current squad. But I see this as one where there isn't much risk because it's a short-term contract. He probably doesn't command a lot of money, but there is a potential here that he could really lead a younger team with his experience to another level. And when fit, and he can be a really, really good player.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really intrigued to see how he does in the Bundesliga because on the face of it, you're talking about a player who's obviously in the twilight of his career, maybe not has the same kind of physicality or athleticism that he once did. And I think when I first initially saw him moving to Wolfsburg, I thought, maybe he's looking for a nice house in Berlin. He wants in a kind of nice leafy suburb nearby to work, an easy commute most weeks. Wolfsburg pay well, so maybe that makes sense. But I think if you kind of do dig underneath the stats, you can see a player who could actually prove to be quite a useful star for Wolfsburg. The thing that I think really interesting about him is that even though his stats weren't fantastic for Man United last season, his key passes in particular were still really impressive. He's still a player who knows how to make a pass. He can still thread a pass. He can still kind of orchestrate midfield. Still knows how to get the ball into the box for players. And if you kind of look through that Wolfsburg team, they are missing, a playmaker of sorts. Obviously, last season, if you look at their assists, Mohamed Amoura was their top goal scorer and their top assist creator. He was Mr. kind of fantastic for Wolfsburg. But after that, it was Maximilian Arnold, who is also no spring chicken. And I think, you kind of look at that Wolfsburg team and you maybe think there was a lot of hope for a lot of players there. You know, I had a lot of hope for Patrick Wimmer. I thought he was going to be good. I thought Jakub Kaminski was going to be good. They're both still young players, so I guess they still can do. But the one that I think has really kind of let me down last kind of couple of seasons was Lovro Majer, the Croatian playmaker. I really thought he was going to come from Stade Ron and really kind of hit the ground running in the Bundesliga. And he was a great playmaker in Liga, and it just hasn't really worked out for him at all, Manu. So
Mm.
I think Eriksen kind of flies under the radar, comes in as a ballsman, relatively easy signing. Um, but, we might find ourselves in a kind of Granit Xhaka situation here where, no one had very high expectations for him, but he actually ends
Mm.
up becoming a really important player for that Wolfsburg team. And as you said, there's already such a strong Danish kind of influence and culture at the club that you'll probably settle in very easily. So, yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how he does. But, Wolfsburg are going to have to be at their best this weekend because they come up against a Cologne side who have really kind of upset the odds already when the first two match days against Mainz and Freiburg. So, yeah, definitely a really interesting story to keep an eye on this weekend.
Yeah, I'm curious to see whether he's going to play. Before I touch on this Köln game, they did sign Adam Dagim from Salzburg, who's only 19, right, and is also Danish. Bringing him in, Jesper Lindström, of course, has also arrived. Joachim Male is already there. So there is this. It could help with these younger players. So we'll see how it plays out, and I'm really curious to see whether we're going to see him in action against Köln. They play on Saturday, and you're quite right. This is a Köln side that has done really well to start the season. The projected lineup for this game sees Lovro Majer start over Eriksen. Whether that's actually going to happen, we'll have to see, right?